second chance in the game.
So I am the head coach at Arcola. I've been here for 5 years. Today I'll be talking about variations to running the counter. Here's all my contact information. A little background. I was an assistant coach at Unity for 7 years. Learned under Scott Hamilton. He taught me essentially everything that I know. I've been here at Arcola for 5 years. Overall, have a 37-13 overall record. Been lucky enough to qualify for the playoffs each year, 2 quarterfinal appearances, and won the conference championship this past year. So today, some variations of counter. We've got our basic GT running back counter. We've got same side running back counter, running counter with an H-back, quarterback counter, some counter read with some RPO stuff off the backside. So just multiple ways of running the same play. And what's nice about it is it's the same for our guys up front. We have essentially 2 ways to run counter. We can GT it or we can GH. And we'll just zone seal our backside tackle, but all the other window dressing and reads and different things like that, really, I think we carry probably five total run plays, and so we have to be multiple with what we run to keep it simple for our guys up front. So this is a look at our GH counter. Go to the end zone view here. So if we're running GH to the left side here, can I draw on this, Nate?
Yep.
Okay. So we basically have 2 calls for our front side. We have a chip call if he is inside shoulder to our guard. So our tackle is going to chip him and get to backside backer. So our tackle here in this situation should run through this kid's hip to the backside linebacker. What's important for our guard is he takes a good first step with his right foot to protect for the slant because our center is going back. If we have a 3 technique, which we'll see later, we will double team this and he will come, and our guard essentially will come back. But in this situation here, it was just a good picture of what it should look like. Our tackle should really knock that 2-eye into a down block for our guard and then continue back to the backside backer. So we have a little jet motion here. One thing I would say, our guard does not do a great job with his first step. It's back and underneath him instead of lateral. But our tackle does a great job of knocking that kid into a down block, getting off the ball. So both, when we watch this in film, one thing we really preach to our kids is we want everybody taking the same step. So if you look at our left tackle and our left guard, we're getting off the ball essentially at the same time. I don't like this kid stepping back and underneath him. We try to keep his shoulder square and lead with his left shoulder, but he recovers well, and our tackle does a good job of knocking it back. Our pulling guard, we preach to get your head upfield. One thing we've kind of talked about as a staff is we want his left shoulder to get upfield on the defensive end, and you'll see he does a pretty good job of this. Like for him to deliver a little bit more of a blow. And then our H-back, which essentially is taking the place of our pulling tackle on GT, is pulling for the inside shoulder of play side backer. So you see he kind of misses and overshoots it. He's not tight enough to the double team or to the chip block. But our back does a good job of being patient. And you can see here with this backside linebacker flowing over the top, he has a pretty good cutback lane to have success. So here's another view. So here we have a 3 technique. We're into some 3-back stuff now. We got into this because Felt like it gave us another guy at the point of attack, and what teams were doing, we saw a lot of bare front with 2 inside linebackers, so a stacked box. And for us to be able to run the ball effectively, we had to add another hat to the box. So this kid is essentially going to turn into a lead blocker. Everything's the same up front. Everything's the same for our H-back. This kid is going to lead through the hole and pick up an outside folding in outside linebacker here. So if you look, we have a 3 technique, so we should get a right foot step, and we should get a down block. His right, one huge coaching point for us, his right arm here should not get engaged in the double team at all. And eyes should be on this backside backer. So he does a pretty good job. Our tackle actually knocks him into a 2-eye on the double team. So our guard overtakes that. Tackle comes off to backside backer. Probably holds him here, but didn't get called, so we're okay. This is outstanding by our pulling guard. Really leveraged at that point of contact. Leads with his inside shoulder, gets his head upfield, and creates a good running lane for our running back. Our lead back is coming through and picking up anything to the outside, and this should essentially be our H-back's target. Again, our H-back does not do a good job of getting downhill. A lot of that's probably alignment, but our lead running back picks it up and does a hell of a job being a lead blocker. So from the wide view, again, double team here, two good steps to the backside backer. Our H-back should be pulling for this kid to the inside shoulder. Essentially our lead back should be inside of the kick block with eyes outside, and then we're running GH to the left here. So we see that they bring an outside blitzer off the edge, which is great for us because now our lead back doesn't have anybody to go to. So what he's going to do is lead and run through the hole just like he has the ball, and then we're one step away from busting this. And this was a game we were happy to have our 3-back set in because our quarterback was out with COVID. Our starting quarterback was out with COVID, and it was downpouring. So being able to run the ball effectively against a loaded box really put us in position for success. So I put this clip in. We're running GT. This is our RPO. This is as advanced as it gets for us. We're gonna read this backside end, and he crashes, and then we're running bubble off the backside. So our slot here should work up to safety, and he is not going to block this kid because it's essentially our second read. So I put this in because it's terrible. This was a terrible call on my part. It's right before half. We read it. Quarterback tried to throw it, got hit. D lineman ended up picking it off. So I put this in there to say, you have all this stuff, doesn't mean you've got to call it, and you've got to call it in the right situations. So this was a round 1 playoff game against Salt Fork, and just an absolute terrible call. So this is all great. Everything goes great when you can run it and run it well. Doesn't mean you've got to call it. I will say, if we're able to get this ball out, he's still running. But that's neither here nor there. So this is our second year here as a staff, and we're running just GT with a little jet motion to pull this outside linebacker out. Again, play side, this is going to be a chip block. So our play side guard is downing, and then our tackle should be working to this backside backer. This is our pulling tackle. This is his target, and then we should get a kick block on this defensive end. And more times than not, with as much as we run this, we will get a backside cutback lane. as long as our backside tackle and our center do a great job of down blocking it and creating that wall. So here we essentially the same thing. We get a good double team. We preach a lot of vertical push on our double team. I don't like that our right guard has his inside arm involved, but they are driving this kid back into the feet of the linebacker, and he can't essentially get to the block because of our double team. Love their pad level, and then our back does a good job of bouncing it and taking it. So here we get into our two-back set. So we will get into this if we get a backside end that's crashing hard and we really want to run GT. So essentially we are crossing our running backs. Nothing changes for our back who's getting the ball. He's still going to jab, step, and go. But our other running back, his job is to cut off that backside defensive end. And we will also get into this if we feel like their linebackers are getting a good read on our backs. So in this example, this kid here was a 1,000-yard rusher for us for 2 consecutive years, almost 3 consecutive years. And this kid was, he was a dynamite back as well. So we felt like if they were keying our main guy who got the bulk of our carries, we felt like this was a good position to get into and slow down their linebackers a little bit. So as you can see, our first running back that goes through, his job is to cut off that backside D end, and he does a good job with that. Guard doesn't do a good job of getting upfield with his head, but is able to create a little bit of a hole. And then our tackle does a great job of pulling and getting his eyes inside to that backer and wrapping. So here's an end zone view of it. So this should be a double team look with as wide as our 3 technique is. He should essentially just be, we know this kid's probably not going to slant into an A gap. So he should pick up and put down with this foot and work vertical and let the tackle turn him into a true double team. I don't like how much he went out, and this is something we really put an emphasis on. This was 2 years ago. We put an emphasis on this for the past couple of years. Coach Reel and I really worked at this for our double teams. Same thing. Back does a good job being patient. You can see again, we get a lot of movement with our double teams. This is a 5-man front. So we would make a mud call and just down block everything. This was something we hadn't seen, but we still get good movement and still get our good kick block, and our back does a good job of being patient, staying square and ready to bounce. So here we're going into quarterback counter. So we add in a little jet motion. This was our first year here as a staff. So, and this was the first game of the year. So this is something that we added. Felt like it put us in a good position. Our quarterback was a kid who could run it, very athletic. And again, our back coming across, his job is to cut off the backside D end, get a double team or a chip block, work to backside linebacker. Here, our double team does not have to work to the backside linebacker because they should see that he went with the jet motion. So they're going to stay on that double team and create as much movement as possible. Guard does a heck of a job of getting his inside shoulder to the kick block, getting his head upfield. Tackle's path is outstanding with his pull to the play side linebacker. So this was this year, so kind of a point of reference to see how we've come along with this set. We've got a tight end. This is our second round playoff game this year. We knew what look we were going to get, and loved running backside away from our tight end. So what happens in this play, and this is an outstanding picture of what it should look like if you get a good double team working to that backside linebacker, and the H-back has an outstanding path and getting to the inside shoulder. We saw a couple times earlier he didn't get to the inside shoulder of his play side linebacker. He does a heck of a job of rooting him out, and you can see the gap open up. So great double team here to the backside linebacker. Tackle does a good job of coming off late. 30, our H-back here. I mean, you can see this hole has been created. Here's the wall. Here's the kick block. 30's aiming point should be right here. And he's not super physical, but gets enough of the right aiming point to create a lane, and our back does a good job. One thing we preach to our running backs is we want to be tighter to the double team than we want to be to the kick block. So if we can really scrape paint off of that double team's butt and get vertical as soon as possible, the better off we're going to be. And this is a great picture of what it should look like. On the backside, if we are running our GH counter, so our tackle, and this is something that seems minor, but our tackle, especially if we've got a 3 technique or especially if we've got a 4-eye, he has to be great at closing this gap down and then hinging back. So his first movement should be inside to close off that gap, so a good 3 technique can't get in the hip of our pulling guard, or a 4-eye can't get in the hip of our pulling guard. So this is something we put a big emphasis on. I don't like how much ground he gives up, but he does a good job of closing down the gap. So this was our very first play of our first year here. We ran our GH counter, get a good chip block. Our left guard basically just takes this. We don't get anything from our tackle on him because he's got him overtaken. And then our tackle here is working all the way back. Great block by our H-back, rooting it out. And I thought, this was my first play as a head coach calling offense. I thought, man, this is freaking easy. But our kids just really understand this. And what I said earlier, we can add all these things, and we'll get to that in a second, but we can add all these things to the outside, but nothing up front changes. And that is really important. We can run this play to any front. We can run this play effectively because our linemen can play fast and know where they're going. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. So here, instead of being our GH, we have now gone into our deuce set. So we're twins away in deuce. Now we've essentially just taken our lead back and turned him into our H-back puller. So he's going to lead. He's going to let the kick block happen, and he's going to lead to the play side inside linebacker. So again, same play. Everything's the same up front. We just have a different back leading to be the puller. And this is, I mean, just an outstanding job by our pulling guard of destroying the defensive end. Lead back does a good job with the target of getting the inside shoulder. Like to see our right tackle break down a little bit at the second level. Kind of whiffs, gets his head down a little bit. But as you can see, I mean, that's a pretty good path, and we're getting vertical. Good picture of a chip by our right tackle here. Gets his hands inside, just chips him enough. Again, want to see him break down to this backside linebacker. But as you can see, our guards pull and annihilating that kid kind of creates this play. So now we've ran GT, we've ran GH. Now we're going to add a jet motion, run GH or GT with it. We're going to read the end and pull it on the backside. So we've got jet motion going play side. We've got GT pulling. This is against Arcola. We know they're going to be well coached. We know they're going to follow our pullers, and our quarterback reads it, pulls it, and has a lot of success here. So again, jet motion, we're GT in it. Quarterback pulls off the backside for a touchdown. So this situation, like we talked about earlier, we knew this team, this is our first year as well, we knew this team was well coached. They were going to follow our tackle. Their DN was going to get in the hip. So an answer that we had, they were so fast and athletic up front. We knew we had to start reading this kid. So one option we had out of our trip set, read that defensive end, let him tackle our running back, and then let our quarterback be a playmaker. The play side guard actually down blocks this kid into the path of our quarterback, so he's able to make a little bit of a move. But just an option that we've got if we are getting tackled on the backside by the backside defensive end is just simply to read that kid. So same thing here. We've got our H-back in the game. So our H-back is essentially going to arc and turn into a lead blocker for our quarterback. We know we're probably going to get a pull read. We're going to go GT. DN's going to chase. But our H-back now is going to get out on the outside for our quarterback pull. We also knew going into this game, they were in a 4-2-5. They were going to set their Sam linebacker to our twin side. So we basically had 2-on-1 or 2-on-0 to the backside here. So just a way to still get our read and get an extra blocker out on the outside. So now we've got him in a hip position. Same thing. Quarterback pull. H-back does a good job of sitting and letting the defender come to him. So when he arcs out here, we don't want him running and chasing. We tell him, you are a quarterback pull player. So if our H-back goes in and chases, we're going to lose this edge that we've set. So we let our quarterback set up the run, and our H-back does a good job of sealing that edge, makes a good block, and we get a big first down. Same thing here. This is our freshman in at quarterback. Not sure I agree with the read, but he is athletic enough. You can see we arc our H-back to become a lead blocker and essentially get a 2-on-1 block with these two on their backside force player. And both of them whiff, but we had the numbers. So this is a bash. Everybody's running, power read. Bash is starting to become a big thing everywhere. We just wanted to put this is a different way to put the defensive end in a bind. So what we do, we're still going to run counter up front. So we're running GT up front. Our running back should come flat across the toes. Quarterback is going to shuffle one time, play side. His read is this defensive end. If the defensive end squeezes, we're giving the ball on the sweep to the outside. If the defensive end sits and widens, then we're going to pull it and run quarterback counter to the backside. So he gets a little flat-footed here. Quarterback pulls it. Their defensive end kind of plays on their side of the ball, so our guard will log that, and it just creates a really soft edge for them. we get 2-on-1 to the backside linebacker and get a big play. Same thing here, just from an end zone view. Back goes away, still running GT. Guard probably should have picked up. This should have been his kick block, and we should have wrapped here. But as you can see, backside linebacker puts him in a bind. He's chasing the back away, and we're able to have a pretty big play again. Again, same thing here, and this is why this was really the game that we used to teach our kids the importance of this first step. They were head up twos a lot, and they were slanting A gap or slanting B gap. So our guard, as you can see on this play, does not take a good step, and our tackle is not able to do his job and get a true double team. And to us, we feel like the double team is where our counterplay has success. Now, he does a good job of fighting and leveraging that kid, but if we get 2-on-1 to him, I mean, you can see what this bash play does to a defense. I mean, we've got a seam here if we have two kids on him. Now, I will say we preach to our kids, like in this situation, everything triple option, everything, old school, under center. When in doubt, give it. And I think that mindset is pretty well the same with this play as well. If you are without a doubt unsure what this defensive end is doing and you can't make a play, give it, especially early in the game is what we talk to our kids about, because early in the game, this kid's going to sit, but he's going to take that hesitation step. If you've given it a couple times, he's going to widen, and it's going to open up the quarterback counter play. So now we've entered a slot into the backfield. We're going to run the same thing. Again, defensive end squeezes and sits. So we give it here. Now, not a successful play, but what we've done is we've made the entire defense run sideline to sideline and understand that they may give this, and it's one of our most electric players that we've got. So getting him the ball out on the edge and running counter away is more of a mindset thing, more of a we're going to run this play to set something up later. And I think it's important for your kids to understand that. This is something that we call this counter toss. So essentially the same concept as our bash play. So back is going to be on the same side, but he's going to arc, and then our quarterback will essentially read this defensive end. Now, here, we were lucky. Our athlete was better than them. But if you look as this play develops, we have a huge seam to run quarterback counter on the backside. So back's going to hesitate, deepen up, run a toss path. Quarterback will shuffle 1-2. If DN squeezes, we'll flip it out here. If DN widens, we'll run quarterback counter to the backside. So he hesitates. We get the toss out. Probably should have called our crack block call to our slot to seal that backside defensive end. But if you look backside, we have a walk-in touchdown with our quarterback if he keeps this ball and runs back. This kid was not a huge runner. did a great job of running our offense and understanding where to put people and had a good arm and understand where to place the ball. Not a huge athlete as far as running the ball. So here's the same play from the end zone. Mud call up front, so everybody's down, going backside. So what this action in the backfield has done, this backer's flowing, this backer's flowing. So really, again, setting this up for quarterback counter coming backside. We get this kid kicked, we get everybody down blocked, and our tackle is essentially wrapping to nobody. So right there's, if I can freeze it, right there's a good look at what we have coming to the backside. So if quarterback takes his hesitation step, his slide step, doesn't like this, which I think he probably should have kept this, and runs quarterback counter on the backside, we've got a lot of success. So I put this in. One thing that we have struggled with, and the hardest part about counter, is teams who do a really good job of wrong arming and spilling things. So one thing that we are our next level of getting to running counter, and this was our first year. To be honest, I don't know that we even coached this. The H-back just did a really good job. They wrong arm this, and our H-back, instead of trying to get inside that kick block, was able to wrap outside to his backer. So, just knowing we weren't going to be able to kick that kid, and you're going to play teams sometimes that their defensive end's just better than your guard or bigger than your guard. So you've got to have a different option. And our back did a good job of not trying to force this into the hole and being able to bounce it, keeping his shoulders square. H-back does a heck of a job as well. So this is our next level to get into running counter, is what do you do to teams that are going to spill it. So now we've gotten into our 3-back set again. Same play we saw earlier from the end zone. Get a good double team. Here the guard is able to come off. This guard is able to come off on your backside linebacker. Tackle turns this into a down block off the double team. Lead running back, eyes outside. H-back is pulling for play side linebacker. And that was a big play. We were up 7-0 on Villa Grove, and this was the last play of the first quarter, and kind of took the wind out of their sails a little bit. So this is our RPO off of counter. We're going to read the backside defensive end, and this is an expensive play for a couple reasons. One, it just takes a lot of natural ability by your quarterback to make the right read, and then to make the second read off of it. This is old triple option football, so you're going to read the defensive end, and then your second read is going to be whoever the force player is. So the important thing, again, is not only does your middle slot has to understand he cannot down. So if we're running regular bubble, he's going to be down on this kid and block him. And then our wide receiver is going to be here blocking the outside linebacker. So understanding that is our next level read. So he has to work to whatever the next threat is. So here we run GT, get a pull read. Quarterback does a good job of pressing his first 3 steps flat. So if his first 3 steps are flat, it's really going to make their alley player make a decision. So in this situation here, our number 2, you can see, is he's essentially going to block their outside linebacker. Well, they have a stun on where this kid is going to be the flat player, and he's coming inside. So number 2 actually does a great job of adjusting to that, understanding the situation, and turning and blocking and just getting a hand on number 2. We were able to get a ball on the edge. Quarterback did a great job of making that throw, blocked just enough on the edge, and get a touchdown to our most explosive player that we had. End zone view. Good double team. This is a really good, it's probably the best lineman we've had here. Really good job by, and he really didn't even play guard. We just had him in guard this game. Great job with his first step of, he's got a 3 technique. He doesn't need to work inside a ton. He's essentially going to pick up and put down and then get vertical and let the double team happen. So he does a great job of not working too far inside, not engaging his left arm. Probably would have liked to see him stay on the double just a little bit longer until he gets a threat from the backside linebacker. Another just addition to the counterplay. So we're running GT away. We're going to read it, but now we're going to take our opposite running back and wheel him out for a triple option look. So make the read, pull it, get the ball out on the edge. So all of those are variations to running counter. I think the most important thing you want to do is, what can you do? What little variations can you do? Number one, to put your best kids in the best position. If you don't have a great tackle that can pull and wrap, use your H-back. And then everything else on the outside and different looks, we are doing to influence defensive ends and to slow down linebacker reads, because essentially we want to be able, when we need a play, we want to be able to get a good double team, down block, kick the defensive end, and get 3 or 4 yards. So again, just a lot of different options to run counter. And, I hope you understand we might not have been great at running this, but what we do has created a lot of success for us to be able to run our number one run play. Thank you.